It started like any other week. I woke up beside Mia, my girlfriend of almost 4 years, kissed her on the shoulder, and went about our usual morning routine. We had what most would call a stable relationship. Comfortable. Predictable. We had our rhythm, coffee, shared Spotify playlists, dinners out once a week, and quiet evenings spent binge-watching shows. But over time, that rhythm began to feel more like a routine, and the silence between us, though familiar, started to stretch a little longer each day. I used to think I had it all figured out. I had a steady job in tech, a clean apartment, a girlfriend who looked good on my arm at functions, and a best friend I'd known since middle school. Kevin and I had been through everything: breakups, failed college classes, and a shared obsession with dumb action movies. If there was one constant in my life outside of Mia, it was Kevin. He'd always been there for me, and I for him. He was the type of guy you could call at 3 a.m., and he'd pick up with a joke before asking what was wrong. We never had secrets, or at least that's what I believed. And I knew about his family, his little sister, Emily, who I'd met a few times when she was in high school, awkward and quiet. She'd grown up, of course, but I didn't really think about her much. She was just Kevin's kid sister, a few years younger, someone we joked about being off-limits back in the day, though no one was serious. Over time, I'd see her name pop up now and then on my feed. She'd post art, cryptic quotes, the kind of things you scroll past but don't forget entirely. A few times, I'd liked her posts without much thought. Once, she replied with a thanks and a smiley. Nothing flirty, just friendly. But still, I remembered thinking she's not a kid anymore. Things with Mia had shifted in subtle ways. I didn't notice it all at once. It was in how she checked her phone during dinner more often, or how she no longer reached for my hand while walking. She still said, "I love you," but it was flat, like it came from muscle memory. I wasn't perfect either. I stopped initiating conversations that weren't about bills or errands. We were two people coexisting. Still, I didn't suspect anything. Not really. Mia was private, always had been, but I respected that. Or maybe I was just too comfortable to question anything. Trust wasn't something I ever felt I had to work for in our relationship, it was just there. And I was proud of that. Then came the message. It was late, just after midnight on a Friday. I was on the couch half asleep, mindlessly scrolling through memes when my phone buzzed with a DM on Instagram. It was from Emily. We weren't exactly chat buddies, so I blinked at the screen for a moment before opening it. She'd sent a photo. It wasn't risque. Nothing dramatic. Just a blurry image taken through what looked like a restaurant window. At first glance, it didn't register. A woman with her back to the camera was leaning across a table, kissing a man whose face was turned slightly away. The lighting was low, the kind of warm glow you'd expect from a cozy dinner spot. But then my eyes adjusted, and I froze. The woman was Mia. Her hair, her jacket, even her phone case sitting beside the wine glass, all unmistakably hers. The man across from her wasn't me, and beneath the photo was a message. "I thought you should know. I didn't want to get involved, but you don't deserve this." I didn't reply. I stared at the image for what felt like hours. My mind scrambled to come up with a reason, a context, something to explain it away. Maybe it was old. Maybe it wasn't even Mia. But I knew better. I knew every detail in that image. The timestamp proved it had been taken just 2 nights before, on the night Mia had said she was going to dinner with a co-worker she hadn't seen in a while. I sat up, phone trembling in my hand. My heart was racing, but my thoughts were oddly quiet. Not rage. Not sadness. Just disbelief. I thought about waking her up, demanding answers right then, but instead, I just sat there, replaying every recent interaction with her in my head. The shift in her behavior. The sudden need for more space. The random mood swings. The nights she came home smelling of a different cologne and brushed it off as a weird Uber driver. All the little things I had ignored. I checked the photo again. I zoomed in. The man had a familiar build. My stomach dropped. He looked like Kevin. I didn't want to believe it. My brain screamed for another explanation, but the puzzle pieces started falling into place faster than I could stop them. Kevin's sudden flakiness. The way he always changed the subject when I mentioned Mia. The times he said he was just passing by our apartment and wanted to hang for a bit. I clicked back into the chat. Emily was still online. I typed, "Are you sure that's Mia?" She replied almost instantly, "Yes. And I'm pretty sure that's my brother. I saw them. I took that photo myself." I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know what to feel. My throat was dry, and my chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself. I set the phone down, but my hand stayed frozen midair, like even my body couldn't process what I'd just read. Emily messaged again. "I'm sorry. I've known for a few weeks. I didn't know if I should tell you. I didn't want to get in the middle. But you don't deserve this." I stared at her words, rereading them again and again. I should have been angry, furious. But all I felt was a hollow sense of detachment, like I was watching this happen to someone else. I typed, "Why are you telling me now?" Her answer, "Because I saw how he looked at her tonight. Like he didn't care who he was hurting. And I couldn't stay silent anymore." I didn't sleep that night. I didn't confront Mia. I didn't even move. I just sat there, phone in hand, eyes locked on that blurry photo, wondering how long I'd been the fool in my own story. And through it all, the one voice that echoed louder than the rest wasn't my girlfriend's or Kevin's. It was Emily's. "You don't deserve this." Maybe it was the first honest thing I'd heard in a long time. I stared at the photo again the next morning, as if it might somehow change. It didn't. It was still Mia, still Kevin, still unmistakably them. My mind kept playing tricks, telling me there had to be an explanation, but deep down I knew. Everything made sense now in a way I didn't want it to. I'd been lied to, betrayed. And not just by her, but by the person I trusted most outside of her. I didn't text Emily again. I didn't need more details. What she'd given me was enough. Proof. It wasn't a rumor or a suspicion. It was fact. Mia came into the kitchen as if nothing had happened. Hair tied up, scrolling her phone, sipping coffee. I watched her for a moment and almost convinced myself to let it go. But I couldn't. I asked, "How was dinner with your coworker?" She didn't flinch. "It was good. Long night, though." I nodded. "Where did you guys eat again?" She hesitated just a second too long. "That new bistro off Grand. You know, the one with the wine wall?" "Wrong place." I already knew. I showed her the photo, without saying a word. She blinked, froze, then stared at me. "Where did you get that?" I'm not the one with something to explain. Mia's face went pale, but her voice sharpened fast. "It's not what it looks like." Of course it wasn't. I waited. She stammered. "Okay, we had dinner. Yes, we kissed. But it wasn't serious. It was a mistake. With Kevin." Her eyes darted away. That was confirmation enough. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, letting silence wrap around us like a noose. She tried again. "I didn't mean for it to happen. He was just there. You and I haven't been close lately." There it was. My fault. The classic pivot. "You're blaming me?" "I'm not blaming. I'm saying we've both been distant. I thought maybe we were done. You just didn't want to admit it." I laughed. A dry, cracked sound. "So sleeping with my best friend was your way of finding clarity?" She didn't respond, just stared at the floor, then quietly said, "I'm sorry." I didn't answer. There wasn't anything left to say to her. I left. Walked out with nothing but my phone and wallet. The rest could rot. Kevin didn't answer my calls. No surprise there. He knew. I drove around aimlessly for hours, thoughts spiraling in a tight loop. I couldn't wrap my head around it. This wasn't just a girl cheating on me. This was the guy I'd gone to war with in life. The guy who helped me move, stood beside me at funerals, played wingman when I met Mia. He looked me in the eye for years, knew what she meant to me, and still chose her. It felt personal. Not just betrayal, like a deliberate knife to the back. He finally responded late that evening. One text, "Can we talk?" I met him at a park near his place. He showed up looking like he hadn't slept, hands in pockets, avoiding eye contact. "I didn't plan for it to happen," he said first. I cut him off. "Don't waste my time." He sighed. Look, man, we were drunk one night. It started there. We didn't think it would keep happening. It just did. How long? A few months. The punch didn't come. I wanted to hit him.
Needed to.
But I didn't. I just stood there, trying to figure out how many times I'd been made a fool. He added, I was gonna tell you. No, you weren't.
He didn't argue.
Just nodded. You're my brother, Kev. You were supposed to have my back. He looked ashamed for a second. I messed up. I know that. You messed up? This isn't forgetting my birthday or crashing my car. You slept with the woman I lived with. Silence. You're dead to me, I said final. And I meant it. I walked away. He didn't follow. I didn't go back to my place that night. Instead, I checked into a cheap hotel, turned off my phone, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Everything I believed in had been ripped away in 24 hours. No relationship, no best friend, no peace. Just silence. In that silence, one message echoed louder than anything else. Emily's.
She didn't have to tell me.
She had no reason to get involved. She could have looked away, pretended she didn't see. But she didn't. She'd stepped in when no one else would. I texted her the next morning. Thank you. She replied, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. I typed and deleted a dozen things before finally sending. I don't know what to do now. She said, breathe. And don't let their choices define your worth. It wasn't some profound wisdom, but it hit. Because she wasn't wrong. I told my boss I needed a few days off and left the city. Just packed a bag and drove north, no destination in mind. I needed air, distance,
time.
On the second day, I got another message from Emily.
Not a photo this time.
Just a simple, you okay? I replied, no, but I will be. She offered to meet up and talk if I wanted. Said she understood if I didn't. I took a breath and said yes. I met her at a cafe outside the city. She looked different, more real than filtered Instagram stories and old memories. No makeup, hoodie, tired eyes. But somehow, she felt familiar. We sat down, awkward at first.
She ordered tea.
I got coffee. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I wasn't sure either. She looked down. I hate that I had to be the one to show you. I'm glad you did. We sat there in quiet for a while. Then she said, I saw them more than once. It tore me up. I looked at her. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I didn't know if you'd believe me, or if I'd just make things worse. Kevin is my brother. But what he did wasn't right. And you always treated me like I mattered, even when no one else did. That hit me in the chest. I always saw you as the little sister, I said. She smiled faintly. I'm not a kid anymore. There was weight behind that. A pause that meant something. I didn't push it. I just said, thank you for being honest. You're the only one who was. When we left the cafe, she hugged me before walking away. It wasn't romantic.
Not yet.
Just real. For the first time in days, I didn't feel completely broken. I felt seen. Heard. And that was enough for now. I didn't expect to talk to Emily again so soon, but 2 days after we met at the cafe, she messaged me. Nothing dramatic, just, hope you're eating. That cafe had terrible coffee. I smiled, and it surprised me. After everything, a smile felt foreign. But there it was. I told her I'd found a better place, and she should try it sometime. She replied, only if you're buying. It was light, but it mattered. We started texting more. At first, it was casual. Short jokes, random check-ins, music links. But slowly, things got deeper. She asked questions no one else did, about how I was sleeping, what I was thinking about if I'd talk to Mia again. I hadn't. Mia texted once, a long apology I didn't read.
Kevin didn't try.
Maybe he knew it was pointless. Emily became the only person I trusted to talk to. She never judged. Never told me to get over it. She just listened. And in listening, she made space for me to breathe. We met up a week later. No agenda. Just two people carrying different kinds of pain. She told me how hard it was watching Kevin turn into someone she didn't recognize. How loyalty to family doesn't mean silence. How she'd always notice things others didn't. You were always good to him, she said. Better than he ever deserved. I didn't know what to say. Her honesty had a way of disarming me. We started spending time together more regularly. Walks in quiet parks, late-night drives where we didn't need music to fill the silence. She'd bring up random things like old memories of when we first met, when she was still in high school, and I was just Kevin's friend. You never looked at me back then, she said once. But I looked at you. I glanced at her. You were a kid. I'm not now. There was something undeniable growing between us. It wasn't forced. It wasn't built on desperation. It was quiet and real, formed out of shared wounds and unexpected comfort. The first time we touched, her hand brushing mine, it felt more electric than anything I'd felt in years. Not because it was new, but because it was honest. I pulled away not because I didn't want it, but because I was scared of what it meant. She noticed. You don't have to be afraid of feeling something good. But I was. This wasn't just a rebound. It wasn't revenge. It was something else. Something I didn't have a name for yet. And it terrified me. We didn't talk about what we were doing. There were no labels, no promises. But the connection deepened. Long conversations became longer silences, and those silences felt safe. One night, after another walk that turned into an aimless drive, we ended up in her apartment. Nothing was said. No seduction. No games. We just moved toward each other like magnets. Every look, every breath between us felt like permission. We kissed. It wasn't rushed or chaotic. It was slow, intentional. I felt everything: loss, confusion, hope, guilt. And still I didn't stop. Neither did she. When it finally happened, it wasn't just physical. It was emotional. Like something we both had been carrying alone finally had a place to land. Afterward, we didn't speak for a long time. She rested her head on my chest, and I felt the weight of everything, yet nothing at all. Peaceful, but heavy. I'm not a mistake, she whispered. No, I said. You're the only part of this that feels right. Still, guilt crept in. Not for Mia. Not for Kevin. But for how quickly I'd gone from heartbreak to something new. Was I using Emily to feel better? Was she using me to hurt her brother? I couldn't be sure. She must have felt it too, because the next day she pulled away slightly. Not in anger, but in caution. I care about you, she said. But I don't want to be a distraction from your healing. You're not, I said, but I wasn't sure she believed me. Truthfully, I wasn't sure I believed myself. We didn't talk for 3 days after that. It felt like a void all over again. I tried focusing on work, gym, anything to escape the noise in my head. But everything brought me back to her. I missed her. Not just the way she touched me, but the way she saw me. The way she never looked away when I was at my lowest. When we finally met again, she said, I don't want to be a part of your collapse. If this is going to mean something, it has to come from a place of clarity, not pain. And I realized she wasn't pulling away to protect herself. She was protecting me. I'm not trying to fill a void, I said. I just didn't expect to find something real when everything else fell apart. She didn't answer right away. Then, I've waited for you to notice me for a long time. I don't want to start something that'll end with you running back to the past. I reached for her hand. I'm not running anywhere. And for the first time, she smiled without reservation. But even with that, we kept our distance physically, emotionally. She needed space, and I needed clarity. We checked in. We talked. But we agreed to not rush. Still, every moment we did share carried weight. A glance across a table. A text before bed. A joke only we understood. I was healing slowly. I started therapy. Started journaling. Began cutting away the parts of me that tolerated half-truths and emotional laziness. I started choosing honesty. Even when it hurt. Mia messaged again. Long paragraphs. Regret. Offers to meet. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't care, but because there was nothing left to salvage. Kevin stayed silent. Emily told me their relationship had fractured too. He called her a traitor. Said she ruined everything. But she held her ground. You didn't ruin anything, I told her. He was always going to choose himself, she said. One night, as we sat on a rooftop, she asked, Do you ever wish I hadn't sent you that photo? I looked at her.
No.
That photo broke everything. But it also showed me what was real. She nodded. I don't want to be your rescue story. You're not, I said. You're my reminder that something good can still exist. That moment felt like a shift. Not an ending. Not a beginning. Just a moment of truth between two people learning how to trust again. And for once, that was enough. It had been a few months. Time moved differently after betrayal, slower in some moments, quicker in others. But the ache that once clung to me like second skin had started to loosen its grip. I didn't think about Mia or Kevin every day anymore. When I did, it was like remembering a scar, not the pain, just the lesson. I didn't check Mia's social media, didn't wonder who she was with, didn't care if Kevin was still pretending he was the victim. I was done carrying the weight of people who broke me. Emily and I never defined what we were. But the way she made space for me to heal, the way she didn't demand anything, just offered presence, that mattered more than a label. We didn't rush. Some nights we shared the same bed. Some nights we didn't. Some days we talked for hours. Other days we just sat in silence. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. One evening, she told me Kevin had moved out of state. Didn't leave a note, just packed up and vanished. She found out through their parents. He always ran from consequences, she said. Good, I replied. Let him run. She hesitated. Do you hate him? I thought about it.
No.
Hating him would mean I still care. I don't. I just don't respect him anymore. And once that's gone, there's nothing left. She nodded. That's where I am too. We fell quiet again, but it was the kind of silence that didn't need to be filled. I had nothing left to say about Kevin. That chapter was closed. What mattered now was what came after. I started reconnecting with parts of myself I'd neglected. Music, photography, running. I started volunteering at a local shelter. Helping others gave me purpose when I felt aimless. Emily joined me once. She ended up spending the whole day with an old man who just wanted someone to listen. I watched her as he talked, and she never once looked away or checked her phone. That was her gift. She made people feel heard. One day, she brought over an old photo album. It was filled with pictures of her, Kevin, and their parents, back when things were simpler. She showed me a picture of the three of them at a lake. Kevin had his arm around her, grinning like he didn't have a care in the world. Back then, I thought he'd never hurt anyone, she said quietly. Sometimes people change, I said. Or they just finally show you who they are. She asked if I thought people could really start over. I said I didn't know, but I was trying. Every day. Not by pretending the past didn't happen, but by refusing to let it define me. It was strange how healing didn't come in grand revelations, but in tiny decisions. Choosing to stay kind. Choosing to speak truth. Choosing not to look back. Mia reached out one last time. She emailed me, probably hoping I'd read it since I'd blocked her everywhere else. I skimmed it. She said she missed me, said Kevin meant nothing, said she hated herself for what she did. But the words didn't land anymore. They were weightless. The version of me who would have obsessed over them was gone. I archived the email and never opened it again. Emily and I grew closer, but it wasn't linear. Some days were hard. I'd get distant. She'd worry. I'd spiral over nothing. She'd call me out. But we kept showing up. That was the difference. With Mia, I always had to guess. With Emily, I never had to ask if she cared. One night, we ended up back on her balcony, a soft breeze brushing through the quiet. You've changed, she said.
How?
You're lighter. Not happy all the time, but less angry. Like you're not carrying everyone's mistakes on your shoulders anymore. I was tired of bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand me a bandage. She looked at me for a long moment. Can I ask something selfish? Anything. What if what we have becomes real? Like, more than this? It wasn't a question that scared me anymore. I'd like that, I said. But not because you're lonely or broken?
No.
Because when everything else fell apart, you didn't. You were the only honest thing I had left. That means something. She didn't say anything, just leaned into me, and I knew that was enough for now. I wasn't looking for a fairy tale. I didn't need dramatic declarations or sweeping gestures. I just needed what we had, quiet, patient, true. Eventually, I moved into a new apartment. Different part of town. Clean slate. Emily helped me unpack. We filled the place with plants, books, photos, nothing extravagant, just things that made it feel alive. On the first night there, I looked around and realized something that stopped me cold. I wasn't sad anymore. Not numb. Not bitter. Just at peace. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means reclaiming your story. I lost people I thought I'd never live without. But in that loss, I found something unexpected, a deeper version of myself, and someone who saw me when I couldn't even look at my own reflection. Emily never asked for more than I could give. But eventually, I wanted to give her everything, not out of guilt, not out of trauma, but because she earned it. Every small act of kindness, every hard conversation, every time she chose patience over pressure, it added up. I told her I loved her one morning while she was making coffee. No build-up. No speech. Just a simple truth. She didn't blink. I know, she said. I've loved you too. For a while. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that's what mattered. Not the betrayal, not the wreckage, what we built after. Quiet love born from chaos. Not because we needed each other, but because we chose each other. That's how everything changed. Not with that photo. Not with the betrayal. But with what came after. Rebuilding. Choosing. Healing. And learning that sometimes the most unexpected person becomes your most honest beginning.